Now let me show you some sample entries from the new census. As a first sample, you see a typical entry for a translation that has been published in book form. This, of course, is a translation of Zorba the Greek, and a significant recent translation. It's the first translation of the novel made directly from modern Greek. You may recall that Karl Wildman, in his previous translation, which most people have been reading since the time it was produced about 50 or more years ago, was translated via the French. And I must say that Professor Peter Bean, who has made the new translation, gives us an introduction which I would consider a translator's paradise. Below the main entry, you see the ISBN has been added, as well as quite a lot of information about the contents of the book. On this slide, you see typical entries for individual essays that have been published in journals. Again, I have chosen to focus on publications or essays published by Professor Peter Bean, thematically related to the significant presentation he gave in this very seminar just a few weeks ago. And a third example, a typical entry for a translated item published within a journal. Those present at the seminar a few weeks ago will long recall hearing Peter Bean reading aloud from this translation of the Moonlight Sonata. If, of course, as in this case, any of the translations or essays have been republished, that will be indicated in the entry. And now a familiar item, at least familiar to the members of this seminar, which is an entry in the new census. This is an example of a book that contains many items from an author's translated works. You see on this slide the standard entry description plus editorial notes in smaller print that will help define the content more precisely. The entry for this item occupies actually 2 slides and potentially more if one were to add in also the Greek titles of this bilingual edition. And here is a detailed listing of the contents of this volume. We usually give a full indexing or listing of the contents of large or collective volumes so as to facilitate detailed retrieval when searching, as for instance in iTunes, for individual poems and especially the personal names of all authors, translators, editors, and others. The presentation of this amount of detail is, as far as we know, unique to our project. What can one do with such information besides locating individual book-length translations or studies or single items hidden within larger or collective volumes such as books or journal issues? Well, we can produce various types of overview. For instance, a geographic comparison such as you see here. These are the counts of translations in book form up to 2004. And just to speak a little bit about the results, obviously there are more translated books of authors that have been published in the USA. Coincidentally, there were equal numbers in the United Kingdom and in Greece, 179 each, and, as might be expected, very few English translations in mainly French-speaking Canada. Another potential use of the census in an overview might be to create a comparison tracking the production of book-length translations of works of authors over time. And from that one might even point out trends. On this slide, you can see in blue a tracking of the numbers of books per year, book-length translations, that is, per year, published in the UK, again in blue, or in red in the USA. One can conclude by the summation that the USA has produced such full book-length translations of works more than has been done in the UK. And in observing the peaks in these charts, one notes that the highest peak per year occurred during the 7-year military dictatorship known as the junta years, 1967 to 1974. Such an overview could be specialized to track, for instance, the production of or concerning specific authors or even literary genres, which we do identify insofar possible in the census. Besides obtaining overviews, many may want to track individual authors, works, translators, etc., over time and space. It will be a sizable technical challenge for us to provide for good searching. For instance, here you see the multiple spellings of Cavafy's name in English as found in the publications recorded in the census. It's obvious that authority forms will be needed and cross-references to them. We expect to provide a so-called authority form for each author's name, as done in the Library of Congress or the WorldCat catalog, for instance, both in Greek and in English. And we shall also record the variant spellings found in the publications and provide cross-references between the variant spellings and the authority forms. With the census, we shall make evident the authors and works that have been multiply translated and discussed in English. For instance, here there are a number of doubly translated prose works. We shall also we also are able to indicate or show to you now the familiar list of the multiple successive translations into English of the complete poems of Cavafy. We hope also to point translators and authors of essays towards authors and topics that are underrepresented until now in English. This tends to be the case more for prose. And, of course, to provide a basis for comparing the life or spread of modern Greek literature in English with its life in other languages, for example, French, Dutch, and others. And here you see, as indicated, some underrepresented authors for whom the census has not yet located any book-length translations of their fiction. This work, the Census Project, is open access in all senses. The information often comes to us by email from friends and colleagues worldwide. You are most cordially invited to participate, not only in using the eventual new census, but also to help in its production by submitting your information on new or rare publications. I look forward to hearing from you. Please also spread the word. The new census will be only as good as we can all make it be by working together. As you can see on the bottom of this last slide, there is a newly constructed website whose address is given there, and that is the location where we expect to be publishing progress notes. We also plan soon to be circulating blank input forms for your use and inviting your submissions. Thank you.